Hi, this is Lee. I'm going to be talking about something that I happen to find out about. And I'll preface by saying that no matter what the subject is, whether it's art or whether it's news or whatever it is, there's always going to be genres and subgenres. And in music, for instance, there's rock and jazz and classical and folk and all that. And let's say in rock, there's heavy metal, there's new metal, so it's like whatever it is that someone might be into, there's going to be a certain group of people who are into it. And this thing that I'm going to be talking about is not something that I would ever want to be a part of. But I find that the subject is interesting and intriguing. And that's when I found out about the Fyre Festival. I had found out about the first one after it had happened. I had not known that something like that had been happening because it's a part of that subgenre that I don't follow. But when it became big news because of the complete disaster that it was, then I found out about it for that reason. And my thoughts on it at that time were that this is a kind of entertainment that caters to the type of people who like the kind of entertainment that I absolutely pretty much want nothing to do with. And so how this was all a combination of all of those factors that I find to be rather silly and empty, and then to have all of those factors attract a certain amount of people who were going to pay a lot of money to get that thing, only to find when they get there that it didn't happen. It seemed like a very strange but somewhat understandable thing. Now, I'm not saying it's cool to have people think that you're going to be putting on a festival and then all of a sudden when they get there, it happened the way that happened. But also, I thought that it was interesting how people seemed to be impulsively wanting to believe someone who maybe had the same kind of behavior and thought processes as the audience. So it was kind of like Billy McFarlane, who was putting it on. Though he was scamming, he seemed to have the same type of attitude that the people who go on social media to follow all the newest trends, he was a lot like them, or he wanted to have something where they would all come together. And the interesting thing is that when everyone went to that place where the festival was supposed to be, and they found that they did get some food, but there were no anything other than what looked like maybe tense, and a lot of people a bit too shocked to be able to process what was obviously a complete opposite of what they were thinking would happen. But what was really interesting about it is that Billy McFarland actually went to the island, and he saw what was happening. And to me, like how he knew that this was what was happening, but he still went there, it shows that he was the kind of guy where no matter how much something is going to fall apart and not at all be savable, that he's at least willing to continue to go through it until the metaphorical blaze that's been burning everywhere gets to his last cinder and fizzles, and that he will be there to see it happen. Which, for some people, I would say that might be commendable. For him, I think it would prove that he had the mentality that he could pretty much do whatever he wanted to do, and as long as he was continuing to do it, it would be okay. So I didn't get the sense that this was someone who would be sorry about whatever it was that he did that had everything turn out the way it did. I felt he would maybe be sorry if it helped him further himself, but I didn't think that he was someone who would ever speak sincerely about anything. And now that I see that now he's out of jail or prison, he's apparently doing Fyre Fest 2. And he is saying some things, and the countries and the places where it's supposed to happen are saying another. And of course, I believe the countries and the places. I don't believe him. The only thing that I believe, if I were to even believe this, and I kind of do, is that he wants to at least have people buy tickets to go there. He wants to at least have people believe that Fyre Festival 2 is going to happen. And the lowest price ticket, $1,400, is way too expensive for someone like me, who pretty much won't pay more than $100 for anything. But still, there's different meet and greets with different package prices, and some things are in the thousands of dollars, but they happen. Even if I don't approve of them either and suggest people don't pay for them, I do at least have to admit that they are things that exist. And if people pay for them, they will get what the thing is going to be. It might not be exactly what they were hoping, like in a meet and greet. It might be a matter of people think that they're going to have a long conversation with a celebrity, and instead it's only a quick few second hello, thank you, and picture and goodbye, at least the celebrity shows up. And so technically, it's something that happened. With Fyre Festival, I would say at the most, at the very most, if you were to pay the $1,400 for a ticket, you might find an empty island, but Billy McFarland will be there. And if you want to take a selfie with Billy and say, here you are posing with the famous scammer, well, that would at least be something I could comprehend. I wouldn't think that you would want to go on the empty island to take a picture of a tree for $1,400. But still, that's only the $1,400. There are other price tiers, and the most expensive one is over $1 million. And even though it would be absolutely and totally wrong for this to happen, if, for instance, Billy was able to sell about 27 of those $1 million things, he could use that money to pay the debt to the people who he borrowed money from before and could not pay off. Again, I think that that would be a really horrible thing to do, and that if he really wanted to pay off those people, he would have a fund me page where he's asking people for donations so he can pay off his debt. And if some rich multi-billionaire decided to help him by giving him the money to pay off the debt, that would be, well, maybe not the best judgment as far as the multi-billionaire is concerned, but it would be at least a kind gesture. And if he had used the money from those payments for the Fyre Festival too, the $1 million things, if he used it to pay off the people he owed money to, even though it would be totally wrong, it would at least be money that was put towards something that needed to be taken care of. But I don't think that that would happen. I think that if he did sell some of these $1 million packages, he would use the money for himself. And that if he found someone to tell him that he might go to prison again if he did that, he might be so whacked out to think that it would be worth it because he's able to touch that million now and it tastes so good that he's going to ride the wave until that blaze fizzles out into a small little sizzle and stops. So I think that he's doing this because it's the thing that he knows how to do. He knows how to pretend to do stuff. And he is someone who likes to think about what's possible. But I don't really believe that he thinks about what's a positive possible thing. I think he's trying to prove that anybody can say anything if they have the confidence and the gall to continue doing it no matter how far of a collapse happens with it. And the other thing is, the people who do pay for things like this, they're a part of this pay for pleasure culture, not necessarily pay for pleasure as far as like eating good food or listening to good music. It's being able to talk to someone, but paying for it, and then to not have the thing that they thought that they were going to get. So people who are going to pay for the Fyre Festival too are the kind of people who are used to paying for these things. And if they don't get what they hope that they would get, they would at least have something to talk about in social media. So I think it's rather sickening. And even though I thought that the first attempt, Fyre Festival 1, was a complete shambles and proof of how idiotic our culture has become, it at least, if it had stayed only a one-time thing, it would at least be an example of one time where all this stuff that people want and think that they can get and had completely fizzled out in a total shambles and disaster. At least it would be like a one-time example of an extreme. This hasn't even happened yet. It's in the process of happening, and it's getting worse and worse. And I want to strongly urge people to not pay one damn penny for this. If you were to get a free ticket, I think that would be laughable, and you could put it on your desk and look at it and laugh and think that it's cute. But I wouldn't even attempt to go there. I wouldn't even go there if it was across the street from where I lived. If I knew it was happening on a certain day and it was across the street from where I lived, I might walk out my house and look to see if there were things happening, but I wouldn't go across the street and try to inquire about it. I don't believe that any of the entertainment that is supposed to be there is going to be at all, in any way whatsoever, something that I would be into. I might think that there might be some celebrities there that, if this were a legitimate thing, and if they were there, it would be at least interesting, and that if I were to pass one of them on the street in a regular situation, that might be interesting. But at this place, where everything about it is so much fakery, and really the festival itself is going to be a fake, it's not even going to happen, But for people who want to pay for fake things, but at least if you pay for a fake cake, you're maybe at least paying for some other type of food that resembles cake. With Fyre Festival, you're paying for fake cake, but you're only going to get a plate of nothing. You're not even going to get food that resembles the real thing. You're going to get no food in that analogy. I honestly feel that the best thing that people can do is, well, first of all, people can talk about it on social media because it at least brings awareness to people who might not otherwise get it unless they hear commenters giving their take on it, like what I'm doing. But people might not otherwise think that this would be fake. People might otherwise think that this might be something that will happen. I personally think the best thing that he could do, and it would be somewhat of a way for him to redeem himself, is to take off all aspects of Fyre Festival 2, give posts on social media where he has different accounts, and apologize to people and say, I was impulsive and I started doing this when I realize now I shouldn't have done it. And so Fyre Festival 2 is not happening, and please, I hope that you can all forget about my impulsive nuttiness. That would be at least a way for him to show that he's learning. But for him to do again the thing that got him in trouble and is obviously now going to continue to get him in trouble only proves that if people were to pay for this and then not get anything, which is going to be what happens, then it's going to be another incentive for, if he goes in prison again and gets out another time, to do it again. And people might pay for it again. So I honestly think that it's all a complete example of fakery in our culture. I believe it's like, let's say for instance, I went somewhere where someone, a musician, was going to be there to sign my album. I bought the album, and when I went there, the musician signed it. He didn't say anything to me, didn't even look up at me, but he signed the album. This, if Billy McFarland did it, the price for the album would be way, way more. There would be no album. There would be no venue. But Billy McFarland might be on the street corner after you paid $5,000 to have him sign your album, and he would smile and say, I'm sorry, but you can take a selfie with me. So, yeah, I think that what this is going to be is he has an idea of fun. And his idea of fun is doing things that are so whacked out for as much money as people will possibly pump into it, people who have a fake idea of our culture and have a total lack of any interest in anything that's really real and artistic, and to get as much money from them as possible and to feed them with as many lies as he can feed them. And that even if one person, just one, pays for the $1,400 entrance fee to it, that's $1,400 too much and one payment too many. And I honestly believe that. And it's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it. If I do find out that people are paying for it, I'll be amused at it. I might also feel a little pity for who's paying for it. But I wouldn't be like super angry. I wouldn't be like wanting to yell at them and tell them how dare they do that. It would be more like I might chuckle and shake my head and think that they're foolish and think this is yet another example of what's happening. But that would be it. But yeah, I wouldn't even care to meet Billy McFarland if I saw him on the street. If he paid me $5 for the privilege of saying hello to me and to have me say hello back, now this is considering if it's a real $5 bill and he doesn't ask for it back afterwards, I'd do it. And I wouldn't hate doing it, but that would be pretty much what it would take. I mean, if I accidentally bumped into him on the street and it was purely on accident, I would say excuse me, because as a human being, I don't like to bump into people, and I at least will be polite. But as far as Billy McFarland, the guy who became famous for being a scammer, I wouldn't want to have a regular conversation with him. He either started or he got influenced by two cultures. One is the paid meet and greet, and the other is scammers. You know how there are scammers on YouTube and there's scam baiters who bait the scammers and tease them and stuff? That unfortunately is a culture. It's a horrible culture, but it's a culture because there are people who do it, and thankfully there are people who are trying to stop it. But the other culture, the meet and greet culture, where before at concerts, if you were lucky, you could meet someone, a musician from the show, and it would be like a thrill, like, wow, I met someone from the band and I got to say hi to them and they said hi back, and that was cool. Now you can get that from some bands for payment. So you're paying for something you need not necessarily pay for. It would be like if you want to have an emotion, but you tell yourself that you need to pay something first in order to show that emotion. Or you want to say hi to someone who you remember from your older years, and you happen to see them again, but you feel like to make it official, you need to pay them to say hi to them. It's sort of almost becoming like that. It's a matter of where all the clicks on a video become important. And the people a lot of them who watch the videos are now only watching shorts, only because they're not necessarily interested in the actual thing that the short has. They're only interested in quick entertainment. Entertainment that if it were a song, it might have 10 seconds to it. And if those 10 seconds weren't boring, then the person would be able to listen to those 10 seconds all the way through. Otherwise, they might stop after the 8-second mark and think, I couldn't listen to anymore. So, yeah. That's my take on Billy McFarland and the Fyre Festival 2. I think that it's pathetic and sickening that he's trying it again, but because I'm intrigued with how this is happening anyway, and I'm both puzzled but curious as to what the reasons are for him doing it, other than his official statements why. But yeah, I think that the best thing would be for it to just completely be not even listed as anything. To have the place where you go to pay to get your tickets completely eliminated from the internet. And that's my take on it. Okay, take care. Bye.